I hate to say it like this because it sounds dramatic, but it's true. Like the response that was designed to keep us alive is also what's leading to our demise, because our stressors now are not physical. Like it's not the bear.
Mm-hmm.
It's the work we can't get away from. It's, maybe kids at home all day. It's, maybe it's being alone and isolated. Like it's also like the mental things, like we think about stuff and it raises our cortisol. Welcome to Salad with a Side of Fries. I'm your host, Jenn, talking wellness and weight loss for real life. We're here to clear up the myths, misinformation, bad science, and marketing to teach you how to eat and how to cheat. Are you ready? I'm having salad with a side of fries. Hey friends, welcome back to another episode of Salad with a Side of Fries. We're recording at a distance, right? Following all the rules here. And I'm here with my friend Stephanie. Welcome, Steph.
Hi, Jen. Nice to be here. Virtually, of course.
Right, exactly. And Stephanie and I met working out like everybody else, right?
Yes.
But funny enough, we actually have the same birthday. So we're birthday twins.
Go Virgo.
Right? So I'm happy to have you for today's topic because while it's super important, it's also kind of a bit trite, right? I mean, like, we all know stress isn't good for us. You know what I mean? Like, kind of duh.
Right.
But what exactly happens to us when we're stressed and what we can realistically do about it is going to be our focus. Make sense?
Yeah.
All right. So diving right in, let's start with what stresses us. So, Steph, to put you on the spot, what stresses you out?
Well, if we're talking about present day, I think everybody would join me in saying the stress of the unknown with this whole coronavirus pandemic, not being able to leave my house, see my friends, see my family. Definitely been a stressful few weeks here.
Yeah. And even before we were recording, you and I were talking about how, like, working from home, it's almost like your work is always in your face now. Especially living in New York, it's not like we have so much space that we can create like a dedicated work area for all of us, and for people with kids, right? Kids are home all the time. So it's you're working and you're a full-time teacher and, right? I mean, all the things.
Oh yeah. Like it's Sunday, but like what day is it really? Might as well do some work. Like it passes the time and then it's, a vicious cycle because you're not really off ever.
Yeah. And so then the next question, I guess, is like, what do we typically do when we're stressed? Right? A lot of us, I think, have learned to use exercise to help manage stress, right?
Definitely.
Like, you and I certainly have. Like when I used to work full time, that's part of why I liked my workout after work, because it became like the separation between their stuff and my stuff.
Yeah.
Like I could get rid of the day and not bring it into my life,
Oh yeah.
by working out later in the day. And then there's also other people where the first thing that goes when they feel stressed is exercise, because I think sometimes it's like, oh, there isn't enough time, right? So to reclaim some time, I think that's what tends to go,
Yeah. And
what else?
Yeah. Well, that's stressful. I think now also it's stressful not being able to exercise in a way that I've been accustomed to. So I've been a runner, so I'm fortunate that I can get out and run, but going to my group fitness classes or doing any other group fitness is challenging because it's just not available now. So you're kind of taking it upon yourself to exercise, which, helps, but it's not the same. It's not the same as being in a class when someone else pushes you and,
right.
You have that more accountability. So it's
and then
hard.
there's also like happy hours that we used to have, right? Like that was another way to kind of relieve stress.
Yeah. Or meeting a friend for coffee and just, talking, or going to a birthday party, or going to really any function that is just something that takes out of your day to day, something that looks forward to. laying on a beach, going on
Right.
vacation. There's
Yeah.
one too. All the
Yeah.
beaches are closed.
Yeah. And of course, then there's also like stress eating, right? So,
Yeah.
and typically when we're stress eating, what do we reach for?
I mean, for me, it's sugar.
Yeah, for a lot of us, sugar, fries, you know.
Comfort
Um,
food,
yeah,
ice cream.
exactly. And we're going to talk about this, you know, that all of that is actually chemical, why we crave those things. Um, but similar to what you were just saying, it's like right now, all of the systems and structure and routines and stress relievers that we had in place before, we kind of have to rethink right now.
Yeah.
Like it's hard to find a minute to get away from work and kids or, whatever it is when everybody is at home all the time.
Yeah. It's
Right.
also
So,
hard not to watch the news or have the news on all the time with the
yeah,
hope that maybe you'll get some more positive news today. And nope, then that just adds to the stress.
right. Well, so I'm going to jump on that and say, absolutely turn off the news and find the funny things, So, like, go to all of the memes on Instagram and send them around to your friends as group text. Like, finding that moment of humor and laughter and levity is really important.
Yeah, you actually sent me something yesterday that was quite funny and made me smile. So
What was it? I don't even remember anymore.
it was the old guy, and he made a poem, and he was
Oh,
singing.
it was a very inappropriate stay the bleep home, everybody. Although I don't know why I just used a bleep because I always mark these as explicit because I never know what's going to come out of my mouth. But, but yeah. So if you guys haven't seen that one, I recommend you Google it. It's on YouTube. All right. So before we dive into kind of all the chemical side of this and how to help manage stress in other ways, a lot of you guys know we have a membership program so that you can double down on what you're loving from us. And this week, our members are getting a recipe for the most delicious flourless chocolate cake. It's actually from my fellow coach, Jessica. It's her recipe, and it's nothing short of amazing because right now that just might be exactly what you need, right? And our members are also getting a discount on my favorite blend of adaptogenic botanicals to support our body through stress. And I'll talk more about that later. So if you want these bonus tools, it's $10 a month. You get weekly recipes, a monthly article, extra discounts from me and our partners like today, plus access to live Q&A sessions with me. So yeah, seriously, all of this for less than the cost of one Starbucks coffee per week. All you have to do is head over to glow.fm/salad with a side of fries. You'll click the link. You can also click the link in the show notes. When you get there, you click support now, enter your email, your payment method, click subscribe, and you're all set. Literally, it's that easy. So to get this week's decadent flourless chocolate cake and discount on the adrenal cortisol, thyroid, and stress support formula, all you have to do is super simple. Go to glow.fm/salad with a side of fries to join us and let us help you further your health goals. So, all right. We talked about kind of what stresses us, right? And what we tend to do when we're stressed. But let's talk about kind of why that happens, right? So the stress response or the stress cycle in the body. So essentially, our body still operates like it did. We hear this all the time, like in the caveman days, right? So it's that fight or flight response. So the stress response is what allows us to run from the bear that's going to potentially take our life, right? So what happens is that cortisol is produced, and when one hormone goes up in the body, another hormone or other hormones have to go down. And so when that cortisol goes up, essentially all non-essential function goes down. And the only essential function in fight or flight is using our muscles, right? And being able to physically run or fight. So our immune system goes down, our metabolism goes down, literally our brain function goes down, literally everything else in the body basically shuts down until we've run from the bear and that cortisol level drops and our body realizes that, like, okay, we're not going to die anymore. Right?
Wow.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy. But so what that means is I hate to say it like this because it sounds dramatic, but it's true. Like, the response that was designed to keep us alive is also what's leading to our demise, because our stressors now are not physical. Like, it's not the bear.
Mm-hmm.
It's the work we can't get away from. It's, maybe kids at home all day. It's, maybe it's being alone and isolated. Like, it's also like the mental things. Like, we think about stuff and it raises our cortisol.
Mm-hmm.
And so we never escape that stressor. And so there's always that spike in cortisol, unless we can learn to manage it, right? So increased cortisol levels, like I mentioned, can cause, a whole lot of other health risks, right? Like, weight gain affects our metabolism, our blood sugar levels. It also causes a lot of those cravings. It increases our fat storage, right? And the process, like our metabolism, is the process of the body converting food into energy, right? Calories from carbohydrates, fats, and protein combine with oxygen to release energy. But when the body has too much cortisol, the metabolism slows, and therefore we gain weight even if we don't change our eating habits, right? Because the cortisol slows the metabolism. So it ends up being like this double-edged sword, because that, like, it causes us to gain weight, right? And hold on to stuff as fat, even if we don't change our eating habits. But the presence of cortisol, right, does create cravings, because typically we want energy boosting foods like caffeine, chocolate, right? Sugary, fatty foods. And, basically the point here is that these cravings are chemically induced cravings. So I want to take it off everybody's shoulders that this idea of willpower, like, it's not willpower, right? It's chemical. And it's because these foods are easily turned into fuel. And so it gives your body that short-lived energy, which would be really important if we were running from a bear.
Right. No, that makes sense.
Right? So, and not to mention that then a lot of these foods like chocolate, right, and comfort foods tend to also give us a release of endorphins, right? It's the feel-good hormone.
Yeah. And I've heard, and maybe Jen, you can say that similar receptors in the brain, it activates similar to cocaine.
Yes.
And that gives you that like high feeling.
Yeah. And there's actually some people who metabolize sugar into alcohol. So there can sometimes be, right? Like, sometimes it's like that, cocaine high feeling. And then sometimes it might be like a drunk buzz kind of a thing, which is really interesting. And so to your point, right? Like, it's chemical that we go for all of these foods.
Yeah.
And stress itself also elevates our blood sugar. So when hormone levels rise with the fight or flight response, a lot of the stored energy, glucose and fat, is made available to our cells to help the body get away from the danger, right? It energizes the cells. But insulin is not always able to let that extra energy into the cells. So glucose piles up, right? So sugar, glucose in the blood, piles up in the blood, and excess glucose over time can lead to health complications, right?
Like diabetes?
Exactly. Yep. Diabetes happens when we're insulin resistant, and we can become insulin resistant when there's too much glucose in the blood and your body's trying to overproduce that insulin to try to keep up with it.
Ugh. Yeah, that makes sense.
Stress also affects fat storage. So higher stress levels are linked to higher levels of abdominal fat, which is not only, not pretty, but it's actually a top health risk. Cortisol is part of the fight or flight response, like we talked about, stimulates cells deep in the abdomen to accept and store fat. So again, like that worked really well for our ancestors, but for our lives today, under the chronic stress that we have, we're kind of in this constant situation rather than an occasional one.
Yeah. Ooh.
Right? It's like this whole spiral. And if we're in that place for too long, it can lead to what we call adrenal fatigue, where basically your cortisol levels are low, but not in the good way low, right? It's basically like your adrenal glands. So your adrenals are these little tiny glands that sit on top of the kidneys. And that's where, the stress response and the cortisol and all this stuff happens. When we end up in adrenal fatigue, it's like this permanent shutdown where your cortisol levels are too low, but you're also still in this like fight or flight response. So it can be difficult to gain muscle. Your metabolism can slow or shut down. You can have issues with a lot of other hormones as well, right? Not functioning properly. So we want to avoid adrenal fatigue. We talked about that a little bit, if you remember in the episode with Gally.
Yeah.
So adrenal fatigue is not fun. We want to avoid it.
Yes,
So that
at
means,
all costs. Tell us what to do.
Exactly. All right. So before we talk about ways to reduce stress, let's take a pause for a message from our partner for this episode, Lumiere de Vie Skincare. So, founded by Amber Ridinger McLaughlin in response to her own experience of mere marginal results from countless costly creams, she realized the revitalization of her youthful skin could only occur if she developed the next generation of skincare products herself. After working closely with beauty scientists and exploring the most advanced ingredients derived from the earth and sea, Amber created the extraordinary line. Lumiere de Vie is in a category all its own, yet it's more affordable than competing brands. Lumiere de Vie is the next generation of skincare designed to promote the natural healing process of the skin, all skin types and complexions. The extensive line of luxury skincare products is designed to address all skin types and concerns with the highest quality natural ingredients and powerful formulas that help heal, soothe, moisturize, and protect. Lumiere de Vie acts like first aid for your skin. The result? Rejuvenated, luminous, beautiful looking skin. So right now, when we're stuck at home, right, and maybe we want to create a spa night. So these products are the best for that. Honestly, every day when I wash my face, I feel like I'm at the spa. But to create your relaxing at-home spa experience, you're going to want to go for the volcanic exfoliating mask, followed by the moisture intense facial mask. So you'll love how your skin feels and looks. Even your friends on Zoom are going to notice, right? So to get 10% off your order, text the word SKIN, SKIN, to 844-947-4846, and you'll receive the link and coupon code right to your phone. Again, simply text the word SKIN to 844-947-4846. This is a toll-free number. Standard text and data rates may apply. And I'm just going to say it one more time because I really believe in this. It's the volcanic exfoliating mask and then the moisture intense facial mask. Like, you guys, they're awesome. Steph, you're going to have to get them and tell me what you think.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want adrenal fatigue, so I'll take anything.
Right.
Spa day, bring it on.
Right. So, all right, in addition to the spa day, right, how can we manage this stress response? So the first thing is, like I said before, laugh, Find things to laugh about. Like even just smiling. You know, for those of you, Steph, you were there on the webinar with Nandar last week.
Yeah.
She talked about how just holding a smile on your face for 10 seconds, like that expression actually chemically releases the endorphins and the happy things and can help slow the cortisol. Because remember, when one hormone goes up, another one has to go down.
Yeah. Oh,
Right?
I tried that. It worked. I will tell you. I felt better.
Oh, good. So we're going to smile and we're going to laugh. And then we're going to stay connected to people, right? So I keep mentioning this. I said it on social media a couple weeks ago. I mentioned it in last week's webinar. Community builds immunity. And here's how, right? Because when we have that stress response going, right, our immune system shuts down. But having community and having people around us and feeling connected to each other helps release those other hormones that turn off the stress response. And when we can turn off the stress response, it'll allow our immune system to function again, right? So community builds immunity.
I love it.
You know, community in the context of social distancing.
Yes.
It still works.
Zoom community. You can have a Zoom party. I mean,
yeah.
Man,
like Zoom
who hasn't
happy
had
hours.
a Zoom party? Exactly.
Yeah. All right. So then let's talk about some relaxation exercises. So really interesting. So like, think about if somebody walked in the room and scared you, you know, and like you gasp, right?
Yeah.
You're like, right. So that breath is very shallow and it happens way up in the chest, right?
Yeah.
So if we can make our breathing lower down, like from the diaphragm, and slow it down and make it deeper and slower, it's a chemical signal to the body that the stressor has passed. So I encourage you guys, put your hands like on your ribs. And when you breathe, think about your ribs kind of expanding like an accordion, you know, like side to side instead of like our chest coming up and down. Okay.
I'm visualizing. I feel it.
So when we breathe, so that's what I mean by breathing deep. Now, slowing it down, you might want to breathe in for 6, hold for 4, and breathe out for 8. So here's another crazy thing about all this. When we're stressed out, we're usually thinking about something that's already happened or something that has yet to happen, right?
Oh, yeah. What could be the worst case scenario? That's where my brain goes.
Right. So when we breathe like this, you know, focusing on the depth of that breath and maybe even dragging the breath along your vocal cords so it makes a noise and counting, right? Doing all that, it actually requires both sides of our brain. And what's magical about that is that when you're using both sides of your brain, it is impossible to think about anything else.
Interesting.
So yeah, so it brings us back to the present moment and it allows us to kind of refocus and then move forward more intentionally, right? Instead of letting the stress kind of go crazy.
That makes sense.
Yeah. I think it's very cool. And the reason why I like it too is because, again, it's chemical. You know, I don't have to consciously, like, just doing that is chemical that I can't think about anything else.
Yeah. It's like it's like a reset.
Exactly. Some people like journaling. You know, if that works for you, awesome.
Yeah, I've never been a big journaler.
Yeah.
I start it and then I'm like all gung ho and it's like 2 days and then it like peters out.
Yeah. I will say studies show that journaling is one of the best ways to reduce stress and improve weight loss.
Oh,
Those who journal, wait, listen to this study. Those who journal lose 50% more weight than those who don't.
Wow.
And it can help deal with the emotions. Yeah, kind of amazing. So Maybe that's a new habit you want to try while you're stuck at home. I don't know.
And
Throwing it
and
out
when
there.
you say journal, is it like what you're feeling, or is there anything specific, or
Yeah, like I think um in the journal that I use with my clients, it has like, okay, here were the challenges. Here's what I did. Here's what I'm going to do next time, kind of a thing, right? It also has, here's what I'm really proud of today. Here's what I'm grateful for today. So it could even be things like prompts,
I like that.
so it's more than just like journaling the feelings, right? Like it can be like, it might start very matter of fact, like here's what I did today. And then maybe it's, what I'm really grateful for is this. And this was something really great that I did. Like I actually did that online workout that I didn't feel like doing when I did it, or I got up at a normal time and I didn't take a nap because it's so easy to do now, you know, like whatever that might be.
Oh, nice. And would pen to paper, laptop, did the study show a difference?
There is something about pen to paper, but I would also argue like whatever makes you do it.
Yeah.
So if, laptop works for you, then like, cool, just do it,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah, I like the structure. I think that would help someone like me who's attempted and didn't attempt. Like I like what you're grateful for today, and
Yeah.
some bright moments and maybe some lows, some highs.
And I think it's important when you talk about the lows that there's an action, like a positive action. So here's what I did about it. Here's what I will do about it the next time this shows up. So that it's not just sitting in the negative thing.
I like that. I like that.
Awesome. All right, let's talk healthy snacks for a second because we know we crave sugar and, right? I mean, after all, I am giving you a flourless chocolate cake. But think carrots, edamame, almonds, right? As we always know, protein and fiber every time we eat.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the biggest thing when it comes to stress and eating is to make sure that this stuff is easy. Like make these things easy and the other things more difficult.
Like easy snacks.
Yeah, and easy to get to. So like the front of the fridge is the carrots and some edamame, and maybe there's some almonds, right by where you're working.
Yeah.
Versus a bowl of candy right by where you're working. Like make the candy something really hard to get to. Like it's in the back of the bottom shelf and you have to basically like empty out an entire cupboard to get
it. Or right now it's like go outside, go through the process,
right.
Purell everything. So that's a deterrent right now, which is good.
Exactly. For sure. So then this is kind of funny. It's a tip from, when we talk about this all the time, is eating at home, right? Although now that seems really silly. But there is something to be said for staying in control of what we're eating. And eating at home can help with that. So like you said, if you don't have the other things in the house, right?
Yeah, make it hard to get to. It's like, right. Oh, I got to order it. Yeah, exactly.
And then activity. So, we were talking about this with clients earlier this week. Like, it doesn't necessarily have to, especially because, like you said, like we're finding our new way with exercise because it's not the same.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it looks like a couple 10-minute workouts throughout the day.
Yeah.
Maybe it does look like just going for a walk, or if you have kids and you can, go to the park and run around for 20 minutes. Like it doesn't have to be what we've always thought it looks like. And there are so many free workouts now that like, I actually hesitate to say anything because I'm overwhelmed by how many there are.
Yeah. People are really, stepping up and streaming and all the home workout equipment is like selling like hotcakes on Amazon. So I'm really glad
Yeah.
I was early to that party, because now everything's like end of May. I'm like, no,
Right.
no, I need it now.
Right, exactly. I know, I'm glad I bought some stuff before all of this. And then when you do go to the grocery store, maybe carry a basket instead of pushing a cart.
Yeah.
Again, it's like that little extra weight. You know, one of my mentors always says, like, I want you to pick up heavy things and put them back down, and pick up heavy things and put them back down. So maybe that's your kids. Maybe that's the grocery basket. You know, if you're binge watching Netflix, like, no judgment. I love my Netflix better than most, you know, but again, maybe it's like, you know, when it asks you that really annoying question of like, are you still watching? You know, first of all, I think it's the most patronizing thing on the planet, but maybe that's the cue to do a 10-minute thing, and then you can go back to the next episode.
Yeah. Well, and even, you know, in New York, our apartments tend to be pretty small. So what I found is in the evening when I'm on the phone talking to friends or family, like I don't let myself sit down for the entire phone call. And sometimes that'll be
That's
like
great.
45 minutes to an hour, but I'm just walking around my apartment. But you're getting steps in. You're standing up. So that's helped me.
Yeah, totally. I love that. And the last one here is turn off the TV, which,
Oh, that's a big one.
yeah, you know, just like turning off the news, being really deliberate about or selective about the TV we watch can help us manage our stress, because maybe it allows us time to read a book, or maybe it allows us time to actually do that journal, you know,
Yeah.
or spend time with the people who create that connection, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Like maybe don't watch Contagion, but maybe watch a funny romantic comedy. And that's what I
Right.
find myself gravitating towards.
Yeah. No, it's so true. I'm like not interested in a lot of the TV things that I would normally be interested in.
Right. I'm like, I just want something like to your point that makes me laugh or that I can shut my brain off. So thank God Jersey Shore's on, because it does it every time. Every time.
So funny. All right. So then I'm going to move us along. The last thing is those botanicals that I mentioned. So they're a group of botanicals known as adaptogens. Okay, adaptogen means that it brings the hormone levels into balance. So if something's too high, it brings it down. If something's too low, it brings it up. But it will not artificially increase or decrease levels beyond a normalization. So it's really powerful, especially when it comes to the stress response. So the one that our members are getting the discount on, this is the one that I like. It is made with holy basil, ashwagandha, L-theanine, which for those of you, again, I'm referencing that webinar, is also good for our immune health, passion flower extract, bacopa monera leaf, rose root, iodine, eleuthero root extract, right? And these are actually all herbs that have been used forever in Chinese medicine. The studies show that this may help minimize certain stress-related issues like weight gain, difficulty sleeping, and stuff like that. It helps to reduce stress placed on the adrenals, like we talked about, right? Thereby helping to decrease possibility of adrenal fatigue. It may help to support normal hypothalamic pituitary adrenal functions. That's the HPA axis, right? That's all of these hormones. May help support stress-related adrenal functions, helps to promote healthy levels of cortisol, maintain healthy levels of both serotonin and dopamine, enhance and stabilize mood, helps to stabilize emotional responses to stress, and helps to maintain normal thyroid function. So all in, not a bad tool to have in your back pocket.
Yeah, it kind of sounds like the wonder tool.
Yeah. So, and I'll tell you, like, I've been taking this for years. It's because it's an adaptogen. It's one of those things where, like, you're probably not going to have like an aha revolutionary or revelationary moment. You know, like you just kind of feel more even.
But I like that. I like that.
Yeah. So I'll put a link in the show notes. As I said, our members are getting a discount in their weekly email. So I think we've given you guys a lot of tools, right, to help manage stress. I think we understand chemically why stress can be so detrimental to the body and why a lot of our response to it isn't about willpower, right? um, any lingering questions on stress that we haven't touched on?
What about sleep? You mentioned that with the adaptogens.
Yeah.
That's crucial during this time. And I found myself, trying to stick to a pretty regular sleep schedule, but I know that cortisol kind of, you can lower
Yeah.
your sleep. It's linked.
Right, exactly. So so our next episode, we have an interview next week, and then the week after, we're going to talk about sleep. But to give you an answer right now, I want you guys to all be shooting for about 7.5 hours a night. And
Okay.
the bottom line is that our body's reset happens when we sleep. And if we're not sleeping enough, our body can't reset.
Right.
And therefore, every day is sort of exacerbating the day before. And all of these responses build instead of having a chance to like go back to baseline.
Yeah.
Right. And think about it. Like, if we aren't sleeping, right, a lack of sleep is also an indication of stress. And so therefore that also promotes the stress response, right? That promotes the fight or flight, because if we're not sleeping, our body says, uh-oh, what's going on that we can't sleep?
Right. It's not allowing itself to recharge. Like you said, reset.
Exactly. So yes, sleep is incredibly important. For today, focus on 7.5 hours of sleep. And again, we want quality sleep. So we'll talk more about this in the sleep episode as far as challenges with falling asleep, staying asleep, how deep we sleep. That's coming.
Can't
Good
wait.
question.
Can't wait.
Anything else on stress?
So when you're craving these foods, like do you let yourself at all like give into the cravings, or is that bad? And what if you're like, oh man, I just ate half a bag of M&Ms. Now what do I do? Like,
yeah. Listen, I think we're human, right? And one of the things that I work on a lot with my clients is taking everything in stride. And when we're in this for the long haul, right? And when we're focused on our health, it is the long haul, right?
Yeah.
One day is a blip on the radar. So if it is just the one snack, okay, onward, right? Like no one got to a problem from one snack. It's like, okay, what's the next healthful decision I can make? What's the next thing I can do that puts me on this healthful trajectory that gives me a more effective and healthful way of managing this stress, right? But like holding on to it and beating ourselves up about it is like doubling down on the negative piece, because it almost just adds to our stress, right? Like when we beat ourselves up, it's more mental stress.
Yeah. Yeah, I find that happens to me. It's like I'm stressed out, so I eat the sugar, and then 30 minutes later, I'm like stressed out because I'm like, oh my God, I ate that and I shouldn't have done that. So now what do I have to do tomorrow to like,
right,
undo that damage?
Right. And listen, like we can outrun the fork, but that's a future episode coming, I promise. But it's okay. Like we're human and we just keep moving forward.
Yeah. That's all you can do. And breathe.
Like the M&Ms don't have to be a boulder that you're carrying with you everywhere you go, even if it's only around your apartment.
Yes.
Or your house, for those of you who live outside of New York City. Good questions. Thanks. Anything else, or should we go for our nutrition nugget?
I think I'm ready for the nugget.
All right, guys. So this week's nutrition nugget is all about dairy. So, and I get this question a lot because people are very polarized about dairy. Some love it, some hate it, right?
I'm more
And
of a love hater.
yeah,
Like, I love my cheese, but it doesn't like me very much.
well, you're not alone in that. So here's what's really crazy about this. Okay. Basically, in order to break down dairy, we need an enzyme called lactase. Okay. Lactase production decreases with age. So some say as early as 7 years old, but certainly by our teens, really none of us have lactase and everyone is lactose intolerant.
Wow.
Now, there is a mutation genetically that some people better tolerate dairy, but really everybody's lactose intolerant and it's more a function of how much it bothers you or not. So when people see it on a menu plan, they're like, do I have to eat it? The answer is no, right? It's actually purely marketing that dairy is your best source of calcium. And it's purely marketing that dairy is your best source of pre and probiotics. Okay, they're adding that stuff to the dairy.
Yeah.
So your best source of calcium is dark leafy greens. Your best source of, pre and probiotics is actually eating fiber rich foods like vegetables and fruits. That actually creates a probiotic environment in the gut. And we can, and then also like we've talked about before, like supplements for probiotics. So you don't need dairy for calcium. You don't need dairy for, probiotics. We are the only animal that drinks the milk of another animal. Like that's also sort of bizarre to me.
Yeah. I watched that Netflix special. It was unsettling.
Yeah. So if you like it, you can have it. We recommend if you are going to eat it that you choose low fat or no fat dairy, just because dairy fat isn't your best source of fat, right? That's not our healthiest source of fat. I'm going to refer you guys back to that episode that was all about fat to talk about our best sources. And if you don't like it, don't eat it. The last thing I will say, because I get this question, is when it comes to sugar. So if you're reading the label of something that is a low fat or no fat dairy, a lot of times you'll notice that the sugar content is higher.
Yeah, I have.
Yeah. And so what you want to do is look at the ingredients to see if it's added sugar or if it's the lactose, the milk sugar. Because remember, the fat, when they remove the fat, right, by volume, there's more sugar when that fat comes out compared to the other things. So as long as it's not added sugar, I'm less concerned about it. And then you want to pair it with protein and fiber and good sources of fat to balance out that meal. So we're always having protein and fiber at every meal to make removing fat no big deal. Right?
Right.
Because I say that in almost every episode.
Hey, words of wisdom.
Right.
It's true.
So if you are choosing dairy, again, go for the low fat. Make sure there's no added sugar. If you don't like dairy, don't worry. Everybody's really allergic to it anyway. And there are plenty of other better sources of calcium and probiotics. All right?
Nice. I appreciate those nuggets.
Yeah. So, well, Steph, thank you again for being here. I really appreciate it, even as we're social distancing.
Oh, I appreciate you having me. This was fun.
Yeah.
I feel less stressed after this webinar. I'm going to go practice my breathing later.
Oh, good. All right, guys. As always, I'm your host, Jenn Trepeck. Connect with me on Instagram at Jenn Trepeck, JennTrepeck. Our Facebook page is also at the same handle, at Jenn Trepeck. And our Facebook group is at Salad with a Side of Fries podcast. You can always submit questions or ideas through social media or on our website, asaladwithasideoffries.com. And of course, if you're not already, Join our membership program by going to glow.fm/salad with a side of fries. Take care of yourselves, take care of each other, and we'll be back next week. Well, friends, that's it for today's episode of Salad with a Side of Fries. Congratulations for making yourself and your health a priority. Thanks so much for joining us. Be sure to click subscribe or follow on your favorite podcast platform. Share us with a friend, and we'll be back next week. Always remember, you deserve it, and you are worth it. Happy healthy.